Departure. Although the packed suitcases might have suggested a deliberate departure, the total no messages or phone calls was frightening. The family started to doubt everything. Was her disappearance premeditated or the result of an emotional outburst? Did anything go wrong? Or did she have a specific destination in mind? Since they had no idea where she was, they were overcome with uncertainty. Authorities started tracking down Maren Pugh's digital trail on June 18, 2023. A full day after she was last seen, they examined her financial transactions, internet activity, and cell phone data. It was quickly discovered that she, around 8 a.m. on June 17th, a mobile tower close to the town of Monaveen caught the phone's last signal. The gadget then became totally silent. Voicemails received calls, and no additional connections were recorded. At the same time, investigators looked into her online activity, paying special attention to her Facebook page, where she used to be highly active. The final indication of digital activity surfaced on June 17th at approximately 6 o'clock a.m. There were no updates, logins, or interactions of any kind after that. Her bank records were likewise found to be completely inactive. Since the day she disappeared, there had been no deposits, withdrawals, or purchases. Authorities put her bank account under observation in case of any future activity, but nothing changed in the days that followed. After that morning, her SIM card was also inactive and showed no connectivity to any cellular networks. Technically speaking, it appeared as though every remnant of her online life had been instantly severed. On June 17th, there were no signs of movement, location information, or any further activity of any type after 8 o'clock a.m. Her brother Nicholas got a message on Sunday, June 18th, the second day following Maren Pugh's abduction, from a woman who had decided to share what she knew after seeing the family a social media appeal. The woman stated that she had seen Maren at roughly 10:30 a.m. on Saturday, June 17th. She stated that Maren was in Laura St. Pierre, a tiny community around 15 minutes away from Montaigne. She had ordered a coffee and an orange juice when she was by herself on the terrace of a cafe in the village square. The witness recalled that Maren appeared to be acting strangely. She stood up and then sat down again, appearing disturbed and agitated. After some time, she left the cafe and crossed the street to proceed toward a nearby canal, which was close to the local stadium. The woman also mentioned that when Maren left the eatery, she had brought a tiny paper bag. She stopped off and looked around and even made multiple direction changes as she proceeded along the canal. It's a strange behavior that caught bystanders off guard. About 1,000 people are living in the sleepy village of Laura St. Pierre, so it stood out when a young woman, who was unknown to the inhabitants, was seen roaming by herself on a Saturday morning. The witness was able to remember a great deal of information because of its uniqueness. Nicholas quickly forwarded her communication to the police after getting it. Law enforcement officials came to Laura St. Pierre early on Monday, June 19, 2023, to conduct an investigation. Following the witness's description, they started a comprehensive search of the area and soon found a gray Ford Fiesta. Maren's vehicle was parked at an elementary school at the end of a dead-end road near the Montauban Canal. There were no indications that the car had been quickly abandoned, and it was visible and not hidden. It was secured. Officers found 2 sizable travel bags in the trunk after gaining entry. Both were verified as belonging to Maren. Her identification credentials, phone, and purse, however, were missing. The car was promptly seized by the police for forensic examination. Plans were made to look for biological evidence and fingerprints to see if anyone else had been inside or left any traces. There were no indications of damage or forced entry on the vehicle itself. The investigation's course was altered by the finding of Maren's vehicle. Up until that point, her family and the authorities thought she had departed on her own initiative, taking her possessions with her. It was now clear that Maren had disappeared. Even though her car and bags were still there, her phone and personal documents were missing, which suggested that she may have abruptly exited the car or been compelled to do so due to unanticipated circumstances. The car was near the cafe where she had been seen by a witness on Saturday morning, and the canal nearby was the same path she had taken when she was last seen carrying a paper bag. This confirmed the notion that Maren had left the cafe and proceeded down the canal, but after that, she lost any trace of her track. Additionally, it was verified that the vehicle had not been moved since it was initially placed there. It seems likely that Maren had arrived on June 17th and never returned to her car. because other locals reported seeing it in the same location since Saturday morning. The mystery was only made more complex by the 2 bags that were left unopened in the trunk. Why would Marin leave all of her possessions behind if she had intended to leave town? Why not bring a few necessities, at the very least? Furthermore, where was her phone? Particularly considering that the last recorded signal originated from the same location. Between the time she left the cafe and her disappearance, something obviously happened. However, at that stage, there was no hard evidence to support any of the potential possibilities. Although the cause discovery was an important hint, it did not provide any answers right away. Search efforts focused on the canal and the surrounding area because of where it was discovered. Then, days after Marina Payu vanished, her family got another clue amidst the mounting suspicion. This time, it came from a man who said he saw her on the evening of June 17th. He stated that he had spotted Marin in a Montalban nightclub in the industrial area. He claimed to have recognized her, came closer, and even planted a kiss on her cheek to greet her. Shortly after, Marin's abduction started to garner extensive local and national media interest. This new account emerged. Since it raised a fresh possibility, her family quickly informed the authorities. It's possible that Marin was still alive and seen in public that night. However, during the verification procedure, discrepancies soon surfaced. Her phone data was the main problem. After the last signal was recorded close to Montalban at 8 a.m. on June 17th, her device has not linked to any networks. The witness's statement was seriously called into question because there had been no calls, no internet activity, and no indication of movement since that time. There were various issues about whether Marin had actually been in the nightclub that night. Why hadn't she used her phone at all? And how had she gotten there? Her mode of transportation was especially confusing. Her vehicle was found in Lorey, St. Pierre. Furthermore, it hadn't left that location since the morning of June 17th. According to several local witnesses, she would have needed to find another way to go to the club in Montalban if she had gone there later that evening. The 2 places were about 5 miles apart, which was too far and dangerous to walk, particularly after dark. And when there was no phone service, she might have accepted a ride from a person she knew, for example. The veracity of the man's story was seriously called into question. Never te les. As security footage from cameras both inside and outside the nightclub revealed no evidence of her entry or presence there. The risk of mistaken identity was another factor taken into account by investigators. The witness's statement could not be confirmed, despite his conviction that he had seen Marin. Her picture had already gone viral on social media by then, and in a dark-packed nightclub. It would have been simple to mistake someone else for her. The family struggled with contradictory feelings, uncertainty about the veracity of the story, and optimism that she could still be alive. If the man's story was accurate, Marin would have been alive on the evening of June 17th, suggesting that her abduction may not have been planned. Authorities refused to rule out any possibility as the probe continued from all directions. Although the witness account was recorded, it was never verified. Several plausible explanations emerged as the hunt for Marin Pugh went on without finding anything. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence, her family and law enforcement pursued them concurrently. Given that Marin packed 2 big bags and drove off in her car, the first and most obvious argument proposed that she had departed freely. Investigators initially thought Marin might have just needed some time off, a brief respite to decompress and remove herself from her surroundings. At first, this made sense considering her age, independence, and emotional difficulties. But as soon as her car was discovered abandoned with her luggage still inside and no sign of touch subsequently, that hypothesis was instantly disproved. She didn't appear to have begun a new life somewhere else. No withdrawals, no messages, and no online activity of any type. The potential for self-harm was mentioned in the second theory. Her family was unable to rule it out entirely. Nicholas, Marin's brother, acknowledged that she frequently expressed emotions of hopelessness and mental exhaustion in the months before her disappearance. She talked about how, despite her best efforts, life felt more burdensome and challenging to handle. Robust. It was also disclosed that she had at least one time sought professional mental health assistance. Any progress she had made was seen by those close to her as brittle. On June 23rd, another treatment session was already planned. Her social media posts, where she frequently discussed feeling alone, nervous, and uncomfortable in her own flesh, also provided clues about her emotional state. She did not, however, leave a note or message that would have made it obvious that a decision had been made. The third theory focused on other people's possible roles. Marin's relatives started to believe she might have been caught in uncontrollable circumstances after it was reported that she was seen at a nightclub the day she disappeared. The idea that someone might have taken advantage of her weakness in private conversations was the most unnerving. Marin may have been forced or lured into illegal conduct, including human trafficking, according to certain theories. This notion was not backed up by any hard evidence. Nevertheless, the family felt obliged to take into account every scenario. They were still plagued by one question. Why would Marin have left her bags in the car if she had gone alone, and who would have gone with her if she hadn't? Who might have come to get her from that place? It was impossible to verify any situation because there were no security cameras, witnesses, or digital traces. Every possibility was still open. The family of Marin Peo lived in perpetual uncertainty from June 17th to July 13th, 2023, holding on to the slim chance that they might find a clue as to where she was. Law enforcement continued their investigation, tracking down every possible lead, examining digital data, and retracing her travels. Her family conducted their own separate search. In the meantime, on social media, Marin's brother, Nicholas, led a public effort by posting her picture, requesting information, and encouraging others to share the news. His appeal for assistance was promptly embraced by volunteers, residents, and followers. Marin's visage was featured on posters that were displayed in Montalban and the surrounding areas. While some volunteers shared their story on local internet forums, others handed out flyers. However, no reliable leads surfaced in spite of the extensive effort. There was only quiet every day of the quest. No traces, no transmissions, and no sightings were found. Marin seems to have vanished without a trace. For Nicholas, the uncertainty was a major burden. He attempted to go back to work, but his inability to concentrate was caused by anxiety and restless nights. Without answers, each day became more intolerable. He maintained constant communication with law enforcement, responding to each message or tip that might eventually provide insight into his sister's fate. However, there was no breakthrough. The mystery surrounding Marin's disappearance was not resolved until July 13th, 2023, 27 days after she vanished. A local farmer saw something strange that morning while strolling by the canal and a nearby sports field. He had noticed a strong, lingering smell in the neighborhood for a few days. Supposed that a deceased animal was the source. This time, he went farther into the brush, around a quarter of a mile from where Marin's car had been found. Out of curiosity and concern, he discovered a body there, partially hidden by thick undergrowth, resting on the ground. Investigators later discovered an ID belonging to Marin Payou inside a pink handbag that was nearby. The probe entered a new level when the farmer promptly notified emergency personnel. As soon as the police and forensic specialists arrived, they secured the scene and started a comprehensive investigation. Given that the body was discovered in a highly decomposed state, it was likely exposed to the summer heat and the elements for several weeks. Even before official confirmation, the victim's identity was clearly suggested by the clothing and identification recovered nearby. Despite the condition, investigators got in touch with Marin's brother, Nicolas Pugh, that same day. They told him that a body had been found and that his sister was probably the victim. When he got the call, Nicolas was home. He realized immediately that this was the terrible news he had been anticipating, even if the official identification procedure was still in progress. Later, forensic specialists used documents and distinctive physical characteristics to prove Marin's identification. The fact that the body was discovered inside the previously examined area startled everyone the most, a region that has previously been searched by divers, dogs, and drones. However, the site was challenging to access due to the dense foliage and rugged terrain, and it was not visible from the air due to the high canopy above. The finding validated Marin's family's worst suspicions. Her brothers and father, particularly Nicholas, were in a state of shock. Later, Nicholas recollected that he had been by himself when the call came in, describing the instant as though time had stopped. It felt hard to get back to any semblance of normal. Everything came to a halt. The news of Marin's passing concluded one heartbreaking chapter and launched another, as investigators tried to figure out what had actually happened and why. After weeks of looking, spreading awareness, and maintaining hope, investigators and forensic specialists were now in charge of the circumstances surrounding her death. The focus of the investigation changed in the days that followed to determining Marin's Last known movements on June 17th. The woman who had previously reported seeing Marin sitting lower, alone on a cafe terrace that morning. Saint-Pierre played a pivotal role in reconstructing her last hours. Investigators believed that Marin probably went back to her car for a short while after leaving the cafe, but she didn't take anything out of it. Rather, she seemed to walk along the canal in the opposite direction. She crossed a tiny bridge and disappeared behind a group of trees, according to witnesses. That route closely matched the spot where her body was eventually found. Investigators discovered a paper bag similar to the one Marin had brought to the cafe while searching the neighborhood. There were remnants of medicine inside the bag and an empty blister pack lying around. Investigators concluded that Marin had probably been there since the day she vanished. Even though the precise name of the substance was not made public, officials told her family that it was thought to be a strong sedative. She might have passed away soon after being spotted at the cafe. Based on the state of her corpse and the items found around, a forensic medical check was carried out after the discovery. Standard identification processes were part of the autopsy, which aimed to ascertain the precise cause of death, as specified by the medical examiner, but the body was too disintegrated to draw any firm conclusions. A toxicology examination was ordered concurrently with the autopsy to look for any potential drug or substance presence in the marine system. This choice was made after medicines and an empty blister pack were found next to her remains. Since there were no outward indications of violence or physical harm, investigators were inclined to believe that Marin may have chosen to take her own life. There were no signs of outside involvement, according to an official confirmation from the Montalban prosecutor's office. No physical harm, evidence of struggle, or restraints were discovered by investigators. As a result, there was no legal foundation for filing a criminal complaint under laws relating to violent crimes. Marin's family saw that since her mother passed away in 2020, she had been more reclusive in recent years. Despite this, she stayed in touch with people and was active on the internet. She seldom ever expressed her feelings. In the end, the official inquiry found that she had left voluntarily. Her family had to deal with this realization and its severe emotional effects. They finally received the silent but unambiguous response they had been waiting for almost a month, following the formal closure of the case involving Marin Pugh's disappearance and death. Her family decided to discuss the tragedy in public. In a social media statement, her brother Nicholas confirmed that Marin had been located and thanked everyone who had helped with the search. In particular, he expressed gratitude to everyone who shared her picture, helped spread the word, and provided consolation throughout the uncertain times. Nicholas underlined the importance of the internet, pointing out in particular that Marin's Facebook posts helped the woman who saw her early on June 17th identify her. In the end, that tip helped investigators find Marin's car and brought them to the area where she had been last seen. Her remains might have gone unnoticed for a lot longer without it. Nicholas further emphasized how crucial it is to tell Marin's tale completely. In addition to paying tribute to her memory, he encouraged the production of written narratives and videos to increase public awareness of mental health concerns. He said he hoped that by sharing Marin's tale, people would find solace in knowing they are not alone in their emotional suffering or loneliness. Adityonaji, Nicholas sent his sister a heartfelt, blame and judgment-free personal message that was laced with grief and the agonizing realization that not everything might have been detected in time. He wrote that the two were now reunited and addressed their mother, who had died 3 years before Marin vanished. Nicholas wanted Marin to have at last discovered the serenity that had eluded her throughout her life. He pleaded with others as he concluded his statement. Don't go through this alone if you're having trouble. He reminded individuals that even a quick chat can have a significant impact, and emphasized the National Mental Health Hotline. There was no letter and no clear explanation. But Nicholas tried to use Marin's tragedy as a source of awareness and hope for people in need, even though her narrative left many questions unresolved. Nevertheless, all of the indications, evaporating words, quiets, and ephemeral moments came together to produce a single, agonizing outcome. The story of Marin Pugh, a young woman whose silence ultimately became her final message, came to an end with this. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you thought this case was fascinating. Every night, we upload videos from crime cases. Until the next time, remain alert and smart. Music.